so let's say we get the book, we love the concept of extreme ownership, we want to build that in our team. Where do we start?
Yeah, the way you start is you take ownership yourself. And you already talked about what you did, Robin. Mm-hmm. And what you did was you started taking ownership. Now some people think, okay, I'm going to start taking ownership. Okay, Jocko said start taking ownership, so I start taking ownership. And what happens is if I say, hey, Robin, I know you didn't quite get this project done in time. Is there anything else that I could have given you that would have helped you get this done on time? Now, if I say that to you, you're probably thinking, well, Jocko, I could have done this. Like, you could have given me this. You could have given me that. And I should have asked for it. So you're going to take a little bit of responsibility back. As opposed to if I say, hey, Robin, you failed. You let me down. You know what you're going to say? You're going to go, wait a second. You didn't give me what I needed. You didn't give me the time. You didn't give me the people I needed. And we haven't solved the problem. When I start taking ownership, it allows other people to let their defenses down and actually start taking ownership themselves. Now, I promise you that there are people on the phone, on the conference right now that are thinking, oh yeah, Jocko's sitting here saying, if I take ownership, everyone will take ownership. Well, Jocko doesn't know Fred over there because Fred's not going to take ownership of anything. And the person that's out there thinking that, you're actually right. You're actually right. There are going to be some people on your team that don't step up and take ownership. And this is what I've seen, and I've seen this in SEAL platoons. I've seen it in companies. I've seen it in teams over and over and over again. What happens is the people that take ownership, the people that step up, they end up steamrolling the people that don't want to step up. And eventually they weed themselves out of the organization because they don't want to be around that group, because that group is being humble. They're taking hits to their ego, but they're improving. And this person's over here, that's not happening. Eventually they go away.
Right. So let me ask you this though. So like we say, okay, I'm going to take ownership myself. I'm going to start when something goes sideways, I'm going to step in and say what happened, what should have happened, what could I have done differently? Ask that question first. But then at what point, because you roll this out in companies, right? So give me a little bit more beyond, okay, I start doing that. What other steps can they do to make sure that this really gets embraced throughout the organization?
Well, one thing that's important that we have to do is we have to lay out what people's roles and responsibilities are.
Okay.
So if I just throw out a mission and expect people to figure out what it is they're supposed to do, and then I'm expecting them to take ownership of things that I haven't clarified for them, that's going to be a problem. So we want to set something up. We want to make sure that people understand what it is they're responsible for. How can I expect you, Robin, to take ownership of this part of the project if I laid out 48 pieces of the project and I expected you to just figure it out? Now I'm going to expect you to take ownership? No. So I have to do a good job of laying out what the roles and responsibilities are, putting the expectations out there. And by the way, one of the best ways to do this, and this is another thing. So if I want you, Robin, take ownership of a mission. And I say, okay, Robin, here's the mission. Here's the target. Here's the people I want you to bring with you. Here's the vehicles I want you to use to get to the target. Here's the weapons I want you to bring. Here's the radios I want you to use. Here's the route I want you to take to get to the target. Here's the method of entry I want you to use. Here's how I want you to get back. Okay, take ownership of that plan and go execute. How does that feel? Does that feel like that's your plan?
No. Exactly.
No, not at all.
No.
So even if you're a highly motivated person, even the best people, Robin, in the back of your mind, since you're in the field, in the back of your mind, you're thinking, I would do this, and Jocko should have told me to do that, and this would have worked better. So you have your own opinion, and that's gonna seep out. So you can't really fully take ownership of that plan. So instead of me barking the orders down on you and telling you what I want you to do, instead, if I just say, hey, Robin, here's the mission. Why don't you get with your team and figure out how you want to do it? And now if you're a good leader, you get with your team, you say, hey, here's the mission, and you all come up with a plan that's going to work good. And you come back to me and you say, hey, Jocko, here's the plan we came up with. And I say, okay, looks pretty good. Go execute. And now when you go in the field and you run into a problem, you figure out a way to solve that problem. Whereas if you were out there executing a plan that was my plan, that you weren't invested in, you'd hit an obstacle and you'd be like, hey, sorry, we can't do it. You didn't think of this, Jocko.
Right.
So what you want to do is, if you want people to take ownership, you have to give them ownership. And here's another thing that will unfold is I say to you, Robin, okay, figure out how you want to do this. You come back to me, and in my mind, I've got like a 95% solution for this problem. You come back to me, and your solution is like an 85% solution. What do you think I should do? Whose plan do you think I should pick?
Well, obvious.
Which
well,
one?
I think what you're saying, though, is people are going to be doing, if I get into a situation, if I know the outcome, then it allows me to do like what I think is the right thing. Because at the end of the day, what you're saying is you gave me, here's what success looks like when it's done. Right? But you've given me latitude to say, I can try different things. Whereas if you give me, here's your marching orders, part of me thinks, I better do these damn marching orders, even if I think there's a better way, because if it goes wrong and I step sideways, then I'm really going to get in trouble, right? So you give the your team no opportunity to make anything better or to make spur of the moment decisions of why they have to do something, because you're right. I think when you get into the work, none of us can think of every single situation, decision, problem that's going to arise. But I think you're right that if you give your team, here's what success looks like when it's done. Here's what we're trying to, that's what you're calling the mission, I think, right? This is how,
yeah.
and then it just allows them to, and then collaborate with you. But let me ask you a question, because I know I've run into this myself. I'm sure there's people out there. There are some people on my team I know I could give that to, and they would appreciate it. They'll take it, like they love it. That's how they want to engage with me, right? But I know there's some people who do not want that kind of responsibility. If I were to put that on them, I know that it would make them nervous. And I know that not anybody on my team today, but people who have not worked out. You give them something to do, you give them a mission, you say, go figure it out. And they literally resent you for doing that. Like, that's not my job. You should be telling me what to do. How do you deal with that person?
Yeah, that person is a person that you know is not going to be able to rise up in the organization into big leadership positions, because you want to develop people. And, if I had a person like that, I would start off by giving them smaller tasks, things that maybe they think they could handle.
Right.
And then as they succeed with that task, I'm going to give them something a little bit bigger. As they succeed with that task, I'm going to give them something a little bit bigger. And hopefully they build their confidence. They understand the freedom and the autonomy that they have. And it motivates them to do it even more. Mm-hmm. So yeah, that's what we want. Some people, you're right. And like I said, there's a bell curve. You got some people you can throw, all you have to do is whisper what it is you want, and they're going to go out and get after it. The other end of the spectrum, sometimes you've got to spell out exactly what you want people to do. I also find that if someone has worked for a boss in the past that is a micromanager and they've been beat down because they've been told every time they did something they weren't supposed to do, or they tried to show some initiative, they got beat down, or maybe they even made a mistake and they got beat down for it. They don't like that feeling. They're like a beaten dog. And so sometimes it takes time to retrain people and get them moving in the right direction.
Right.
And
you're right.
All these things, you asked me a little bit about the principles of extreme ownership, and as we get into the book Extreme Ownership, we start talking about the 4 laws of combat. The first one is cover and move, which is like teamwork. The next one is simple. You got to keep things simple. Then it's prioritize and execute, which is you can't do a bunch of things at the same time. You got to focus on the most important thing. And the last one is decentralized command. And decentralized command, what that means is you want everybody to lead. And I think, in what the type of businesses that people that are on this call, this is something that they absolutely have to do, because you're releasing your troops out into the wild. They're going to meet with clients. They're going to make decisions. They're going to have to make decisions out there. And when the way that you can empower them to make those decisions is, as you said, you want to explain to them what success looks like. What in our terms, we use 2 things. One is, what is the mission? Another term that we use in the military is commander's intent. Right. So I'm the commander. What is my intent? What is it that I want to make happen? And so when you can give people a clear mission and they understand what the intent is, then they can make a broad range of decisions of what they're going to do.